Hey folks, would like to check in with you. It's the 12th of July. I haven't made a video since my birthday last Friday. Life has been good for the most part. We're going through a big heat spell here in the Midwest. My air conditioning Freon is out and don't have it to fix it, so I've been having to escape my own home just to beat the heat. As a result, I really haven't been wanting to make any videos, but it's early enough, so let me get a quick one made before I escape the house. I had a really nice birthday, and I literally received over 1,000 birthday greetings on social media alone, much less from friends and family. It's very humbling, and I do appreciate it. I think I understand why so many people wish me well. I just really appreciate it. I got some birthday presents. Chris Cole, who lives near Chicago, is someone in the vinyl community who I actually got to meet once, and I dare say there seems to be some sort of deeper connection between us as people, and if we lived closer, I imagine we would spend time together. We would be friends. We would be good friends. Chris is someone who has sent me a lot of music over the years. A lot more than I've been able to send him. I never expect anything, and yet every year he sends me really nice gifts. And he sent me a birthday package, which I'll share with you. Chris, thank you so much, because in many ways you do get my essence, and there is a real parallel in our interests. There are interests that I have musically that you don't have at all, but the ones that we do have in common really strike a chord with me. So he sent me a nice box of records, and he always sends me interesting stuff. Thank you, Chris. You get me. So he sent me this album from the None Such series that came out, I think, in the late 60s or early 70s. This is the contemporary contrabass, new American music by John Cage, Pauline Oliveros, and Ben Johnston. I'm very much interested in experiencing ideas and looking at the trajectory of development of music in the 20th and 21st century. And this series on None Such and this type of work is a good example. These aren't the kind of records that you sit down to be entertained by. You can easily become irritated by the sounds on these records. The John Cage piece is a good example. However, what I like about listening to stuff like this is what it teaches me. That's what I like. So this I haven't gotten to the Pauline Oliveros track yet. And again, the other reason why I'm not listening to so much music is because it's so hot here at the house that I'm not able to enjoy music. Actually, in a little bit here, I'm going to be trying to escape, see if anyone's at the Hi-Fi house. Maybe I can spend time there today. He also sent me Didier Lockwood album. Didier Lockwood is another French violinist in the tradition, I would say, of Stéphane Grappelli, and then the other most famous French violinist is Jean-Luc Ponty. Well, Didier Lockwood has his own style, and he's very good, very fiery. This album is a little more traditional and straight ahead, although the players are so good in here, it's still great. Billy Hart on drums, Gordon Beck on piano, and Cecil McBee on bass. You really can't get much better than that. So their interpretations of things on here are wonderful. Really, really wonderful. I have listened to quite a bit of this because it's so relaxing. He sent me an album I already have, so I'll be passing this on to someone because this is really good. Peter de Havilland, Bois de Boulogne. I've had this since it came out. And this is like a performance because it's impassioned. He's playing keyboards, he's using a rather bright timbre on the keyboard, which may put some people off. It's not a typical setting that you hear being used. It's somewhere, it's close to piano, but it's really bright and tacky, not quite harpsichord. This is really good and bordering on classical, somewhere in the region of Philip Glass, but much more impassioned. Matter of fact, this is a performance piece because there's fluffed notes where he's getting into it so much he hits a couple of bad notes, they keep it in. Those notes aren't intentional. It's passion. Bois de Boulogne, if you see this for $1, which is what you'll see it for if you see it at all, these records go for nothing. When Venture put the series out, I always appreciate record labels making the attempt to put out quality music and raise the bar. Usually those ventures are financially a disaster, but thank goodness they do them. The whole series of albums on the Venture label are worth finding. Thanks again, Chris. Here is some Swedish jazz. I probably can't say it right. Zoran Nyquist. Some Swedish jazz musicians. They pay. There's a lot of improvisation on here. The players are good. I dare say that they pay a big debt to ECM. Keith Jarrett, Jan Garbarek, and John Abercrombie loom large over the way this ensemble plays. They're not imitating, but I can just hear who they've been influenced by. This is a good album, and it actually catches close to fire on side 2. Some of the best improvisation when it comes to jazz is when things catch fire. John Coltrane and Pharoah Sanders and Albert Ayler come to mind right away as being some of the prime proponents of being able to take music out to the cosmos. This doesn't do that, but they're on their way to being able to. Jan Schaffer is a guitar player I like. This is an album of his I probably would not have heard otherwise. It's called Traffic. Interestingly, on this album, he uses electronic, what year is this? 1980, is it 88? I can barely see. Even with my glasses getting old, I have to get this out. 1985, that is one thing about getting old. I am 62, is that, danged eyesight, This I listened to in part. It has some 80s production sound that is kind of jarring, and it's like, I wish it would just toned that down a little bit. But overall, this is pretty cool, and not the typical thing I would have expected from a Jan Schaffer album. Okay, we're getting down to the ones that I really like. Okay, all these are interesting though. Thank you so much. Okay, the last few are the ones that I really like the most. These Penderecki or Penderecki's Utrenja, The Entombment of Christ. Eugene Ormandy with the Philadelphia Orchestra. Okay, this is a grand, large piece, operatic in parts. It's eerie and weird and really magnanimous. Penderecki, whose work I like, and I have some other of his works. Again, a cosmic traveler, like John Coltrane and those guys. Using his music to try and capture a grand vision, an idea. So I haven't read the notes on this. I did try to listen to the whole first side. It was just a bit much. It's very heavy and Penderecki is obviously trying to hit you with a large piece, something that's really important. So I have to take my time with this. I like the way it starts, but like I say, it's kind of dark. It's heavy. It's not easy listening at all. And when the operatic voices come in, I've been to the opera enough that I can appreciate it, although like many people, the operatic style does tend to, and when I first hear it, my initial response is to want to take the needle off. But I kept listening. This I'll come back to. It's a huge piece of work, obviously. Jerry Hemingway, solo works. Jerry Hemingway is a percussionist drummer who has worked with everyone, not everyone, but some great people. Anthony Braxton. I've got an album, Reggie Workman, the bass player. I've got a really good Reggie Workman album where he's playing on. Jerry Hemingway's played with a lot of people. This is not the sort of album that will be listened to a lot. It's like studying someone. And it might be the sort of album where maybe it might only get listened to once by anyone that would buy it unless you're a percussionist studying. This man has a very... he has a sensibility. He's sensitive. You can tell, I mean, the guy's a good player. He's got good technique, but what I notice about listening to side one of this is the sensitivity to what he's doing that takes it to a deeper level. I haven't listened to side two yet, but I really like this a lot. And even though I said this is the sort of thing where on average maybe you might listen to it only once, I'll be coming back to this actually. Cyril Verdot is a French musician who came to my attention through his work under the name Clearlight, working with members of Gong. I have Clearlight albums that, honestly, Cyril's a friend of mine now. We talk on the internet. We became friends. He befriended me because of my political rants. He really agrees with me. But I must admit that the Clearlight albums have always been patchy, where there's parts that are good and other parts that seem pretentious. This album called Messenger of the Sun, and there's a message on the back where Cyril has intentions of spiritual intentions, wanting the music to do something for the listener beyond entertainment. I think that it's partially successful in that. He's a keyboardist. Some of the music is kind of florid and almost bombastic, a bit much. But then you get to the parts where it becomes bubbling and cosmic. And so it's like very interesting, the mixture. Kind of like when I talk to Cyril. He's very, very upfront and opinionated, Why not be, you know what I'm saying? And it's reflected in his music, It's like we don't agree on everything, but I can understand his point of view, which is why we get along so well and talk. When I get political on Facebook, many times Cyril Verdot jumps in. He's made friends of mine angry because he's opinionated. He's not an American. He lives here now. And so that shades his view of things. I just think it's cool that he's become a friend and likes to talk. The icing on the cake, though, Chris, as you already knew, was you had found a copy of this. This is not rare, but I have never seen a copy in Omaha ever. And so I've just really always lusted after this album. The Habibi, If Man But Knew. This is a project come out in 1972 involving members of the Third Ear Band. These folks were obviously getting into Sufism at the time. The writing on the back is all about Sufism and Islam. I'm not into religion anymore. I'm well into spirituality, but there's a lot of gobbledygook talk in religions, all of them, including this one that I have no interest in anymore. And now with time, probably if I had gotten this at the time and had read this, I thought, ooh, this is deep. I read it now and it's like, well, we've gone past this. We know better than this. But the music on this album does achieve its goal. It's spiritual. It's about trying to raise energy. It's meditative. It's beautiful. I knew I wanted this album. Chris, thank you so very much. The Habibi. Right, quick before I forget, someone who watched my last video asked me if I had ever heard of the German band Out of Focus. Yeah, their albums are really hard to, are expensive. And I only have an after the fact. If I can pull it right quick, I will. Yeah, I see it. Thankfully, thankfully I do have a good idea of what's in my collection. So I have this album by it's released after the fact, well after the band broke up. Not too late. Horns involved with the band. But not jazzy. Cool. So let me just show this. So you guys know that I'm a big fan of the band Muse. It really is their music and the voice of Jonas Bjerre, the way that they write. I'm even getting into the lyrics on the new album now. It's starting to make sense to me. This is one of my favorite new bands. They hit me like when I first discovered Peter Gabriel era Genesis. Beatles were the first epiphany for me of music was when before I could speak, and that was Chuck Berry. The next life-changing event for me was the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. The next huge event for me was when I discovered Peter Gabriel era Genesis and Faust pretty much at the same time. It was huge for me personally. I was looking for the music of Genesis and didn't know where to find it. So when I first heard Frangers, the way it starts, it hit me the same way when I first heard Watcher of the Skies. That's, I don't expect this music to do that for anyone else. But that's what it did for me, so that's what I'm telling you. So the band Muse are very important to me, and they're just, what they do really strikes a chord in me. It really does. The new album is just fantastic. So my friend Nick Fackler and I, who are friends with Jonas Bjerre of Muse, so I get a really nice call from Nick wishing me happy birthday, and then I remind him about Muse coming to Chicago August 12th, and he says, well, yeah, sure, let's go. That'll be my birthday present to you. We'll go, okay? Because we both are friends with Jonas, and so I said, well, let me get a hold of Jonas and see if we can get on the guest list, So in between the time of this phone call on my birthday with Nick, who calls me, I get back on Facebook, and it's almost like serendipity. In that period of time, among other people wishing me happy birthday, is a birthday greeting from Jonas Bjerre of Muse, okay? So I responded back and said, hey, it looks like Nick and I are going to be able to come to Chicago for the show. Could we get on the guest list? He said, absolutely, for your birthday, that's, So I'm going to get to see Muse for the second time live, but in Chicago in August as a guest of the band. Now, on top of that, I knew this, but I can tell this now. So, as I keep saying, I'm in a bunch of bands, and one of the bands that I play live in is Icky Blossoms, okay? This is their last album, Mask. Well, it turns out that Muse had approached Icky Blossoms about doing a leg of the European tour, of the American tour, opening for them, and they turned it down. Man, that would have been a dream come true. Well, not a dream, but it would have been a great experience to have toured with Muse opening for them. Excuse me. Now, I understand why Icky Blossoms turned it down, and from the point of view of the band's leader, it makes sense why he turned it down. But boy, how cool would that have been? But anyway, I get to go and be a guest of the band, and providing there's no tragedy or nothing bad happens, I intend to take lots of pictures and video to share with you. Thanks, people, for being here with me. I've been here for almost 20 minutes. I could talk on and on and on about all kinds of things, but I'm going to let you go. And okay, the next video I make, I need to do an update on what I have for sale. I need to do some business. I really need some sales. I've got some local sales, but I do. This is one of my primary outlets for our outreach because I can't afford to advertise. So my next video, I'm going to do an update on what I have, what music I have for sale, and other merchandise. So I'm sure some of you people who are watching me for the first time really don't even know that I'm a musician, really. So coming up next.